professional artist, a public relations consultant, and a health educator for several years before becoming a clinical social worker. He earned his Master's of Social Work at New Mexico State University in 2011 with a focus on Afrocentric psychology. He is a psychotherapist and a yoga instructor, as well as an artist, and teaches Kemetic Egyptian yoga. The agency he founded is called Umoja Behavioral Health PC, is a yoga psychotherapy clinic based in Albuquerque. And thank you to Kenneth for being here today, to providing your amazing knowledge and background. I remember the first time I met you, I was like, I gotta know more about everything.
Same here, right?
Yes.
And we're both singers. Laurel,
we are both singers. We both have a whole other life.
That's right.
Sometimes it's hard to bridge the two, but yoga does that.
It does. It does. So 2 singers from St. Louis are in the house today. Thank you very much. Right. I appreciate that very much. Well, before I get started, I want to give us an opportunity to do something that most of us don't give ourselves much chance to do. So we're just going to take 2 minutes and we're going to sit still. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe. Just breathe. How about that? That's your homework. That's your assignment, is to acquire oxygen from the air around you. So I'm going to start this. We're going to try to breathe out a little longer than you breathe in. Notice that you're in a position you're uncomfortable, just shift yourself and find yourself wherever you need to be, to just continue breathing with an emphasis on the outward breath. Three, two, one. Nice. It felt like a long time, didn't it? Yeah, because we are consistently trying to fill our time up with something. I'm glad that felt good. It felt good for me too. It's important to take those little breaks for yourself each day. I recommend 5 times a day. So that's 10 whole minutes. And you know, it feels like the whole world transforms around you, right? The cat jumped in your lap. How, Sophie? My cat jumped in and came into the office. You probably could hear her roar. She has a roar, actually. Don't tell her it's a meow. She will get very upset with you. Anyway, so yeah, as Laurel mentioned in my introduction, thank you, Laurel. At Umoja Behavioral Health, we use Kemetic yoga and practices like this as therapy. Now, be aware that stopping and breathing for 2 minutes for someone who's experiencing trauma and some other mood disorders may not be the best thing. So stopping and breathing is not the answer to all of life's problems. But for most of us who experience a regular day of living, a 2-minute break of stopping and breathing can be really good to check in with yourself. And then at the end of a 2-minute exercise like that, I will often halt. You thought I halted to stop and breathe, right? No, I ask myself if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And then I check in with myself about what I might be able to do about that. As Laurel mentioned, this form of yoga is called kinetic yoga. A lot of people say kinetic yoga, which is cool because kinetic energy is amazing. But this is kinetic with an M as in Mary in the middle. And our agency name is pronounced Umoja. And if you forget how to pronounce our agency name, you can go to our website and learn how to spell it. So let's see here. So spelling kinetic yoga, Kemetic. Does anybody mind typing that in the chat for me? Because I put my keyboard away. Thank you, John. And you want hungry. Halt is hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Okay. And lonely is not alone. Alone is what I am in my meditation room. I am not lonely, man. Lonely is an emotion assigned to feeling alone. So yes, kinetic yoga is the practice at Umoja Behavioral Health. As some of you may know, Umoja is a close Swahili term that equates to the word yoga. Both of them mean union. I'm going to get into union. I'm getting into union with myself. I'm getting into union with my environment. And asking myself if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired gets me into union with the parts of myself that I'm not aware of. And thank you for allowing us to share how the name is spelled. U, M as in Mary, O-J-A. Thank you, Trish. Very good. Umoja Behavioral Health. And that word refers to our use of yoga and yogic philosophy. We have clients who are from all religious groups, so we don't necessarily get to name yoga or yogic philosophy. However, it makes us better clinicians because we are also better regulated, and you might enjoy a session better with a therapist who might have taken a couple of minutes to take a few breaths before you got into session, huh? That might be good. So that's our work here. Kinetic yoga is the most widely known form of yoga from ancient Egypt. And a lot of it does involve breath work. The primary technique that we use in kinetic yoga is called breath and flow, okay? So with breath, we use the breath to move the body. When we lift the body, we breathe in. And when we lower the body or sit down, we breathe out. And so breathing out is a relaxing posture for the brain and the body. Part of what happens when we are stressed out is we breathe in. We go, oh my God, right? You know, or whatever, pardon my language, but we breathe in, we go, ah, right? You know, so, but when we are feeling good, we breathe out, ah, right? So if you say ah, like a smile, these are two things you can do to make yourself feel better that you do when you feel better. If you say ah, you feel better. And when you feel better, you say ah. You can also say ooh, right? That's a good one too. Okay. And that is a form of breath that actually channels the throat energy. Ooh, you know, so that's something that we use sometimes when people can't speak because of their upsetness. The sound ooh can be very soothing. When we say ah, it's right up at the top and it calms everything down from the rest of us. Breathing out does this for us. When we're breathing out, our heart rate slows down, our neurochemistry changes, the amount of adrenaline and cortisol in our bodies is reduced, and we can think more clearly from both halves of our brain. So when we're doing yoga, we are actually controlling our neurochemistry. No, we cannot necessarily use yoga to control all neurochemistry. And so we do encourage you to take medicine if you've been prescribed medicine. And we would think that yoga would help. And we would think that yoga would help you get clearer about whether or not your medicine is working well for you, and get clearer about what you might want to say to your doctor if it's not. Okay, that's what yoga can do. And it can also help us to find regulation during times where our thoughts start to race, or where we feel overwhelmed by the minutia and multitasking of the day. And so that's a big part of why we teach Kemetic yoga, and how we teach it as a stress reduction model, and how we use it to address what can be social determinant risks for communities of color. If we can practice some of these things, which are no cost and very convenient in terms of time and strategy, we can bring a lot of regulation into our lives. So feel free to pop any questions you have in the chat as I go. And we're going to get to a demonstration at one point here at the end. We're going to do some yoga that you can do in your chair. Some of you may have seen some of my chair yoga presentation today. I think you're going to see something you might not have seen. So I'm looking forward to helping you all enjoy that. So breathing out, saying ah, as well as smiling are ways to make yourself feel better, because they have a two-way connection to your neurochemistry. They are so rooted in our behavior that they have an upstream. So we think, when I get stressed out, I'm going to breathe in and I'm not going to smile, right? Well, your body actually responds that if you smile, even without a cause, you can start to feel better. So if you want to try that, I'm going to smile because it does make me feel better, okay? And then if you really want to do some advanced work today, there is a such thing as called laughter yoga. There's a such thing called laughter yoga, where you induce and allow yourself to laugh. And if you need comedy or something to do it, you can use that to do it, because we can also think of things that we want to make us say, ah, and then make us smile. And so you can do the same thing for yourself. Laughter also changes your oxygen, changes your neurochemistry. And so these are things that are fundamental to our physiology. Yoga is fundamental to our physiology that helps to facilitate our mood regulation and stress management. A lot of people think that yoga is a religious practice, and it is not. Yoga can be called a spiritual practice. However, the science that we now understand basically informs us that yoga is something that probably comes out of our intuition as a mode of self-care. There is a form of yoga on every continent. There's a form of movement. And these include dance and walking and laughter. So these are things that bring us into union with ourselves and with each other as more loosely defined practices. So we also use a social work approach, we use a communal approach, and that's how we help to use the model to support a whole team approach or a whole community approach. So we have a question. Resources on YouTube? Oh, definitely. So if you YouTube search Kemetic yoga, and even if you spell it wrong, you will come up with some really great videos of Kemetic yoga. What I love about the YouTube search results is that you see people of all sizes doing yoga. You see people of all walks of life doing yoga, and you see forms of yoga that are accessible to everyone. And you also see some very fascinating Kemetic yoga. I've done comedic yoga for 27 years, which means I was 1 year old when I started. No, I'm just kidding. The I've been doing comedic yoga for 27 years, and so I've become a master of headstands in yoga, in comedic yoga. So that's some of the stuff that I do that looks more like a circus act than self-regulation. And headstands and back bends are very good cardiac health. Okay, so there is a reason we do them. They're not just show off, ableist foolishness. They actually do have some benefits. And we encourage people who are able to do these poses. And for those who are not, breath work itself is yoga for your diaphragm. Okay. And when you compel yourself to smile, it's yoga for your face that works on your brain. All right. So yoga is not just something that looks like a Cirque du Soleil show by any far stretch of the imagination. And again, walking is yoga. Walking only with the intention to enjoy walking is yoga unto itself. So we want to make some regular practices of that. So I like to think of yoga as a wellness practice versus a spiritual practice. And if you do believe you have a spirit, it's happier in a body that can move and breathe. So, or at least that moves and breathes to the best of its capacity and to the best of your choice at that moment. And so we want to make it a wellness practice and something that we can incorporate to support other health strategies as a self-health management tool. So yeah, you've done yoga already. You've laughed, you've walked, and you've breathed. So if you thought you were inexperienced at yoga, I'm so sorry to bust your bubble, but you know a lot of yoga already. Congratulations. So you got the first class down already. And so, yeah, I will listen for some more questions before we maybe do a little demo, and we might even wrap up a little earlier. What are some other questions folks might have about how we use yoga in psychotherapy?
How does trauma-informed yoga how is that differentiated from like regular yoga?
So yeah, for example, trauma-informed yoga might involve creative visualization rather than let's just stop and breathe. Stop and close my eyes in public. Yeah, not everybody is down for that. Part of what we want to do is listen to ourselves. And so trauma-informed yoga for you might mean that you're not going to do what everybody else in the group is doing. Right, you know. And so, yeah, so we would consider what it means for people to feel safe and what it means for them to have the autonomy to author that safety in various environments. So that's probably the briefest description of trauma-informed yoga I can think of. But also, like, I don't touch as a yoga teacher, for example, and I find that to be a trauma-informed approach. And so someone asked, scarves and bowls, or like singing bowls. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, like singing bowls.
Okay, all right, because I do have a really nice scarf.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like, would it be more like, so like visual stuff, like visually appealing stuff, so like scarves, bowls, sand tables, stuff like that, like more physical type things, would that be more like trauma informed?
Yeah, that can be. You know, you would want to make sure that, for example, well, art therapy should be done, first of all, by someone who's a qualified licensed art therapist, which is an LPAT at the end of their name. And you should interrogate anyone who claims to be doing art therapy for the sake of good art therapy. For example, slimy stuff for sexual assault survivors. It's not a good thing. So, there are some things that we do know about how we might incorporate tools, play therapy, sand play, and yoga that involve texture, touch, and anything else that might be a trigger or any circumstance that might invite a trigger, such as closed eyes and unexpected touch. Yeah.
Thank you.
Our services are covered by insurance. I think we have 22 insurance plans that we cover here. So, yeah, some of them I'm like, who has this? But yeah, really small plans that are up in Sandoval County and stuff. And so yeah, we definitely do accept insurance here. So yeah, more to the point of the connection, right, between yoga practice and chronic disease. Okay, so adrenaline and cortisol are the hormones that your body creates when you are stressed out. Okay, so when someone says you're muted, you get a little jolt of cortisol and adrenaline, all right? Because you're like, oh crap, right? All right. So when that happens, yes, that's right, Selena, it leads to inflammation. And it also leads to a cascade of other effects in your body, such as serotonin uptake. So we take serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We also do other things to manage the stress effects. Those include, of course, high blood pressure and heart disease. We also know that there's a connection between stress and diabetes because adrenaline suppresses the digestive function because your body's trying to get you out of trouble. Your body's trying to find the unmute button, not digest food in that moment. Okay. And so when that occurs, everything is thrown off and the body has an uneven amount of nutrition and some of it becomes too difficult to digest. And when that happens, your body has to produce an abundance of digestive chemicals. And when that happens, that can create a lot of inflammation. And when that happens, that gives rise to a lot of mucus production, getting to something we all recognize now, huh? And then, of course, that promotes the disease of the spread of various forms of disease. So, I would put myself out there and say somebody who has chronic stress can carry more disease, can experience more disease because their bodies are more concerned with their experience of life than keeping them alive. Yeah. So when that occurs, for example, we're not breaking down sugars properly in the body. So your body's going to have to produce more insulin. And you can see where that conversation's going, right? Yep. You're going to have pancreatic distress, insulin production distress, and that sort of things. Crohn's disease, inflammation of the gut. When we are distressed this way, that adrenaline, that cortisol and adrenaline have an effect at the gut area in particular. And so it helps us to acquire belly fat, and it also will cause that inflammation in your gut because your body stopped breaking down the food that was there. So it's like it stops down the factory, it stops everything up. And then, can we get it restarted again, right? It's like the grid, the electricity grid. If it shuts down, you have to restart it very intentionally, right? So Selena's mentioning HIV. Definitely, a lot of people have heard me talk about it. I guess, let's see. Well, I started practicing comedic yoga when I was diagnosed with HIV. So it's been almost 30 years. Yeah. And so I've been fine. I always tell people Magic Johnson and I are doing just fine because people don't really realize that connection, like we're okay. And so, and HIV has many of its reservoirs in the gut. And so what we also believe, now we've named your interstitial fluid an organ, okay? So all that juice inside you is a thing unto itself. And when you twist your body, you cause it to move and refresh itself. And of course, you need to drink water to add to it, right? So you want to make sure that you keep your body in motion in order to keep that fluid going. Yes, that's good. Drink water, everybody. And Magic Johnson is the bomb, huh? And so, yeah, you definitely can see how that might lead to all sorts of chronic health issues. Massaging the internal organs with yoga is really one of the benefits. And so when we're twisting and we're moving and we're breathing with intention, we are causing the organs to be moved and shifted so that some of the impurities and lymph nodes can be flushed and you can clean impurities from your body this way. Of course, none of this matches what your doctor says you need, right? And it's going to help you feel better about what you're doing with your doctor. It's going to help you get more bang for your medical buck to take care of yourself this way. So yeah, inflammation is definitely, thank you, is definitely a topic. Medicine is now coming to this, I think, maybe the greatest nexus of all around inflammation as a predicator of so many diseases. And, but we're reducing our body temperature when we breathe out, okay? You reduce your body temperature more when you say, ah, because when you open your throat, you allow hot air to come out of your body. And so you help to regulate your body temperature. And it depends on whether you're breathing out of your nose or your mouth. And there can be a difference. And there's even alternate nostril breathing as a yogic practice. And there are videos on that as well. So breathing, getting yourself air and water, like, wow, we do awesome with just like good air and water. Like that's, that's like the top two, right? And then we try to follow that up, of course, with good health practices where we get the healthiest foods possible and avoid, adverse health practices such as smoking or substance misuse. Does alternate nostril breathing help with the brain, and what are the benefits? So alternate nostril breathing is a form of bilateral stimulation. Bilateral stimulation is more popularly sought in the form of EMDR psychotherapy. And alternate nostril breathing is very similar to that. I actually worked with a client whose midbrain was not formed well at birth. And so we used, and the midbrain is the part between your hemispheres that are responsible for some of the communication between your brain. We now know that there's also quantum computing in your brain. That's another topic. But when the midbrain is not connected well that way, a person can often function, but their experience of life is very two-dimensional. Their emotional experience can be blunted. And of course, their response to emotional situations can be changed. So we used alternate nostril breathing. My kiddo came with a lot of trauma, and so we used alternate nostril breathing as a kid. And I actually have a video of my kiddo doing alternate nostril breathing. She's like, I feel so good. You should videotape me while I'm doing this. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. She's like, videotape me like this, So yeah, and she still does it. And so, children practice yoga naturally. A lot of the movements we make when we play and stuff like that are actually yoga poses. There's a reason the child pose is called the child pose, because kids like to do it. So we have more resistance as people go up in age to yoga practice. But kiddos are very innovative like that. They have fun, they want to play. I haven't led classes online for a while. Because of the pandemic, the need for talk therapy and what therapy we could do online grew so fast that we went from 3 people to 20 people over the course of the pandemic. So I know more about Quicken than I want to at the moment, QuickBooks and CAQH credentialing and all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm haven't done classes online here lately, but we're going to get caught up with that. We definitely are. But we made our priority the talk groups, because again, what we call asanas in the Hindu language, or poses, aren't the only way to do yoga. We use it in all of our practices, such as the 16 steps, as opposed to the 12 steps, which is a feminist approach. And it's an alternative. And it incorporates mindfulness, and it broadens the practice of the recognition of a higher power to something that people from all communities and cultures can embrace. So those are the ways that we employ something that's in alignment with yoga and a yogic philosophy. And so no, yoga is not just a pose. There's yoga for your mind when you choose to think of something a different way. Even you can do yoga all in your noodle. So, right? Yeah. Just thinking of things a different way. I am not an EMDR therapist. I do have to maintain my yoga credential, and I have to maintain my social work credential. And then we have to maintain the credentials for a 20-person multi-staff intensive outpatient therapy agency. So I dare say I am not hanging anything else on my wall for a minute. I'm gonna stay in my lane. The yoga therapy can be really good for folks who may be experiencing a certain kind of dysregulation. And so I think it's a great alternative if EMDR isn't accessible, and the EMDR isn't appropriate in all cases either. So that's why it can also be good. Part of what that's about is that EMDR is most effective around a specific event, not just effective around a specific event, but most effective around a specific event. However, for example, racism is a trauma that I can experience every day, several times a day, or whatever. So I don't really have a specific event to go into EMDR about, like, yeah, that one time it happened isn't the only time. So yoga allows me to re-regulate myself with a sense of thoroughness and practicality. And then it's not just limited to what might be a specific event or a specific episode of care, where EMDR, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to most forms of care. And so this is something that I can do at home, so yeah. So an example of yoga for the mind, okay? Practice not using the word but. Only use the word and. Try that on for size. Anybody want to give me an example of the last but in their mind?
I want to do this, but I don't have enough time.
Uh-oh, okay, all right. Right. Now replace it with and.
I want to do this, and I don't have enough time.
Ooh. Does that not invite your brain to do something different?
Sure does.
Mm-hmm. I want to do this and I don't have enough time. I'm inviting solution, right? Yep. It's easier to decide to do it later. It's easier to decide to whatever, you know, I'm going to call Maria and say, can I have 5 more minutes? I'm doing something that's really fun. I want to do this, but I don't have enough time, right? Yeah. Okay. So that and becomes very powerful. So in the Afrocentric framework is called, or philosophical, Afrocentric philosophical framework is called diunital logic. The opposite of diunital is dichotomy. And we create all kinds of dichotomies for ourselves. I have HIV, but I want to go to graduate school to be a social worker. Maybe I won't go, right? Yeah. I have HIV and I want to go to school to be a social worker. Let me call the school. Hey, I want to come to school. Let's say we'll work with you. Get on in here, right? You know, then I graduated in 2 years with 12 extra credits. So, because I wanted to take gerontology too. So, yeah, it invites a lot of dynamic thinking. Just that one simple practice, like breathing, not using, right? But yeah, leaving but out. Yeah, we're the doing machine, right? So making time, making yoga practice a habit to be a part of your day, so it becomes a part of the doing. So habits represent our values. Yeah, difficult stuff there, right? Habits represent our values. When I did home visits, I would say, how often do y'all watch TV? They would say, oh, we don't watch a lot of TV. We do a lot of walking and everything, you know. But I would sit on the couch and I would notice that part of the couch that was like this, you know, and I would look at where the carpet was worn. You know, what you do over and over again is what's true for you. And that's how a habit becomes formed. If I value watching TV, it's going to become something I do over and over again. I'm not going to have to work at it, right? So when we're making time to do yoga, we have to decide to value ourselves. And we have to decide to value the time it takes to maintain self and make that a bill due to self. Yeah. And so it takes time. So that means that I don't expect to see you all next week somewhere and be like, how's the yoga going? And you give me a long report. Like that's not cool at all. That's not how any of this works. No. And so what I do offer though is that in some societies, people take 5 times out of their day to stop and pray. Okay. The whole city stops 5 times a day for us to stop and pray, okay, in Muslim society. So if they can stop 5 times a day to pray as a community, what does it mean for me to take 5 times a day to stop for 2 minutes, breathe, and ask myself if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? I'm not going to tell you to clear your mind because you live in the United States in 2021 in the middle of a pandemic where life is on the internet. I'm not going to ask you to clear your mind. That's silly. But you can ask yourself if you're feeling hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And then breathe out for twice as long as you breathe in, if you can. And
Can you
try
repeat those again?
Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. All right. Dehydration is hungry. Boredom is angry. My teenagers didn't like me to say that. It's like, no, see, boredom is a mood that refuses to be entertained. You're angry because you can't choose something else. Okay. You can call me about that later if you want to disagree. But anyway, boredom is angry, lonely, and then tired. Boredom can be a kind of tired too. Tired of looking at this. I'm tired of going through this situation with y'all. I've gotten bored with this. I'm out of here. It's kind of related to anger though. See how it's like kind of over there with angry. So hungry, angry, lonely, tired. The acronym is HALT. Most of the United States does not get enough sleep. Most of us are dehydrated. And most of us are very angry because we watch too much TV, news, media, stuff, social media. So social media, you know, you see the cat meowing and then playing with the ball, and then you see kids fighting, and then you see a news story about people going to war, and then you see blah, 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 right? So your nervous system is, if we're not careful, the channel surfing and the social media browsing, even your inbox, can take you places you don't intend to go. So you'll want to stop and notice where you are. You know, so sometimes I'm like, I feel a hate on me, you know, like what's going on? And I'll have to stop and think, okay, I remember I got that email. John asked me about the notes and I don't know where they are. That's got me stressed out. I really need to just stop and find the damn notes, okay? Right? And quit like dragging myself through my day like this, right? You know, I'm not hungry. I'm kind of angry at myself, right? You know, and I may be a little tired because I've got too much to do and I haven't taken time to focus my tasks and get them done. So before you start standing on your head, these are some things you can do that are perfectly within the realm of yoga practice, indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
So Kenneth, I was thinking as you were talking about inflammation, and what a precursor to that is the adrenaline and the cortisol. And a precursor to that is the stress and the upset.
Right.
Is yoga something that is used, the yoga practice used anywhere along that continuum? Or is there a place where that is best suited for?
Well, it's preventative in a way. And catch me at 5 minutes before we run out of time so I can give you all a pose you can do in your chair. But anyway, if I do my yoga, the person following me around Walgreens doesn't bother me the same way because there's less steady state adrenaline and cortisol in me. But if I've already been irritated by the way the people at the bank were acting about that check and the way they were acting in the parking lot and cutting me off of traffic or whatever, then I get to this point where they're following me around in the Walgreens. You know, unfortunately, I can be read about on the news, because I'm not going to be able to regulate myself in that situation. I'm not even going to be responsible for someone else's dysregulation and fear leapt at me, because I have to do that too. Okay, I have to be responsible for their fear too. Okay, so that's going to change the way I go about that day. I can notice that I'm upset. And now they're calling the police, right, or whatever, right? Okay, it got to that point. I'm breathing now. I'm going to try to, you know, so, you know, you can notice along the continuum at any point that it's going to be effective to decide to stop and breathe, okay?
Is that regulation point? Is that breathing? Is there a regulation question or an internal question that one might ask in that situation too? A reflective question?
No, you're going to be, yep, I remember Kenneth talking about breathing. You're going to do it then and there, because you're going to get that cortisol out of your system right now. Whatever's in there, get it out, let it out, like a release valve. And you're going to do that because when they do cut you off in traffic, you know, the only thing that's going to be breathing in is probably your middle, right? You know, right? So, you know, but you're less likely to get to that point as you just been practicing breathing and or yoga on a regular basis, as you've thought about it, as you made the opportunity for it. I dare say it's very un-yogic to be all mad about being late to yoga. Like that's like the wrong, that's so backwards to me. Like, you're upset because you're late for yoga. Let's stop and breathe on that, right? And so, yeah, you want it to feel like it's something you value enough to do it and not just make it, don't put it on the list with pay taxes. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, don't do that. That's not where yoga goes. Yeah, yoga goes on the list with, call the one I love. Yeah, pick up ice cream, do yoga, right? Coconut milk ice cream, of course, it's more optimal. Let's see here. I'm having trouble with my morning practice, getting motivated. That's interesting because I often tell people my morning is as hard as I think my afternoon is going to be. So sometimes I check in if I'm a little angry about something that's, yeah, it's getting placed on the due to taxes list. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. If it feels like I'm doing yoga because they said I have to do yoga in order to feel better, then I don't know. Let's not. Yeah. Right. Maybe not, let's keep thinking, So what's the difference between mindfulness and yoga practices? Nothing, basically. I would say that one is a form of the other, and different languages bundle different things different ways. English bundles my mindfulness. Halt is a mindful. I'm being mindful about how I'm feeling. So that's a mindfulness practice. When we say the same things in India and in Tanzania, we would say yoga or Umoja. All right, good. And so finally, I like to offer that the reason we do Kemetic yoga, the reason we use Afrocentric philosophy and feminine philosophy are exactly the reason one would ask that question as a counterpoint to all things that are Eurocentric and patriarchal and normal and middle of the road. We just want to give people something else. So that's why we're here, all right? Okay, so I hope that makes sense briefly. So we're going to do our little demonstration. So we're going to do, I'm calling it the Egyptian pose, but it's not in the Kemetic yoga library. Doing alternate nostril breathing, how long is good? I would say twice a day. It's probably good. And I don't know that there's a time limit, or that there's a count limit on yogic practices. And if you're doing them mindfully, then you can't do them to hurt yourself, okay? So if it hurts, it's not yoga. If it feels like paying taxes, you are doing calisthenics, okay? Lovely that you're doing that, but it's not yoga, just so you know, okay? Right? So you wanna make a right angle, shoulders to elbow, and then you're gonna let your wrist drop. Okay, let them drop in front of you. You would breathe down as you would lift, you would breathe out as you lower, but we're just working in the upper body right now. But if you notice, if you breathe in, this all gets better support, right? So that's how breath and flow works, all right? So I'm gonna breathe in, and then I'm gonna breathe out as I turn my head and look at my wrist, okay? And boy, doesn't that feel good. Breathe in and bring yourself back forward to the front. So when your chin is over your chest, you want to breathe in. You want your pharynx and your breathing tube all aligned. You don't want to be breathing in while you're turning your neck, okay? So we're going to do the same thing to the other side. We're going to breathe in, and then we're going to breathe out nice and easy and turn to the other side. And get that stretch in. Then we're gonna breathe in and come back to the front. And then we're gonna breathe out. This time when we breathe in, we're gonna lift the head and hands and go back like we are looking up at the amazing sky. Then we're gonna breathe in and bring everything back upright. And then breathe out and lower our arms. How's that feel? Feel good? Yeah. Huh.
Hands are tingly.
Tingly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we got everything from here, from your rib cage to the top of your skull has had yoga for today. And so walking might be a good way to do that for later, to get the lower body yoga in. A 20-minute walk a day changes your neurochemistry. For some people, as much as fluoxetine or Prozac, a 20-minute walk a day can hit some of us with as much efficacy as Prozac. So, yeah. Again, if you are taking it, continue taking it, and enhance your Prozac with a 20-minute walk, because it's a great medication for those for whom it works. And then and the walk enhances that. So good stuff. Good. Glad, Gail. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yeah. Feel like a teenager. Wow. Uh-oh. Look out now. Give me those keys. Give me those keys. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good. Thank you, Kenneth. Any other questions for Kenneth before we do a wrap up and Laurel and Devana can conclude? But I want to ask if there's any other questions for Kenneth or other comments. Thank you for putting those in the chat or unmuting yourself to ask.
I just, Trish had asked a question about she tends to hold her breath during the day. I kind of relate. So do you have any suggestions about that?
Yeah, just, when you notice it, let that out. Just go ahead and let it out through your nose if you can. The word don't is also not very yogic, okay? So my focus is on breathing, not on not holding my breath. Okay, so if I tell everybody we're going to go skating, but don't touch that pole, what does everybody do? They look at the pole, right? So that's what your brain does when you say don't. So when I say don't eat donuts, I just want to go to Krispy Kreme because I'm thinking about donuts, and then the word don't gets skipped over. So I just noticed I'm going to eat more broccoli, and by the time that donut craving showed up, I would be full of broccoli and I won't want any donuts. So just notice it and decide to breathe.
Because it's literally a 24/7 thing. I'm not kidding you. I'm literally sitting here with you listening, and then I realized I haven't even taken a breath yet. So kind of like just like that. That's how I am all the time. And then when I do like that, the shoulders drop. It's crazy.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So I must walk around like that all day long.
We don't notice it, but we can breathe in. And then once we let the air out, it lets all of that, the shoulders, the rib cage, the whole enchilada just kind of, gets a nice covering of green chili, so to speak. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, notice your breathing, notice breathing out, notice saying, ah. You do hear birds. My yard is like bird central, even when it's cold. Yes, you do hear birds. That's really cool. Right on.
Great. Some other people are putting in resources in the chat and some app ideas, things like that. So
yeah, breathe. No, calm, I think is the one I've been hearing really good stuff about. I haven't had a chance to try it, but a lot of my clients are telling me that calm is a great way to compel themselves, to remind themselves to breathe. And there's apps out there. There's an app for that. As the phrase of the 21st century goes, there's an app for that.
Thank you, Kenneth. Trish is reminding everyone to put your CEU, your name and your licensure, for example, in your sign in for CEUs. And then Laurel, anything you want to say to wrap up and acknowledge? Thank you, Kenneth. Just applause for you as well. And
yes, thank you. I'm glad. And it just made me think, maybe a talk about health apps at a quarterly meeting might be a topic unto itself.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Just
Amazing.
like, what are the apps out there and how
There's
they
so
work
many.
out? Yeah. So thank
And
you.
Kenneth, I just want to check, you sent us some amazing questions, and I just want to check if you answered most of them.
I did.
I may have missed one when I ran to the restroom, but did you answer what the widely known contemporary practice of yoga from Egypt is? You did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just
Because
gonna
it's
go through them
not
real quick.
kinetic, it's can anybody say comedic? That's right. Thank you, Devonna.
And you answered, is yoga a religious practice, spiritual practice, or wellness practice?
Wellness.
I'll repeat that again because I have the answer here, but is yoga a religious practice, spiritual practice, or a wellness practice?
Maybe A, B, and C. A is religion, B is spiritual, C is wellness.
Anyone, you want to guess in the chat? It's spiritual, religious, wellness. I just put them out of order. Uh-oh.
Right. It's okay. I think I like Trisha's answer. The technical answer is B and C, because you do not need religion at all. But yoga will induce a spiritual awareness for most people. So yeah.
And you answered this right. What are ways you do yoga may not have realized it? Of course.
Right. Walking, laughing, thinking in innovative ways, even breathing with intention.
Yep. And then I think that was it from the questions. The rest I heard. So thank you for your presentation and your questions. I'm going to go breathe. I'm going to yoga tonight.
Right on.
Immediately. And late at 9, so I'll de-stress. And we just appreciate you, Kenneth. And thank you everyone for being here. Our next quarterly meeting, I guess it needs to get on the agenda, which will be here right before we know it, how it always happens. I imagine March 15th in that time frame. And if you have any presentation ideas, please let us know. We always love knowing new presentations to bring into this conversation. And if you'd like to join the Chronic Disease Prevention Council, or if you'd like to join one of our work groups, we have a New Mexico Allied Council of Tobacco, Heart Disease and Stroke, Health Equity, Fundraising Sustainability, Prevent Diabetes, amongst them all. Please join. We'd love to have you there for some new faces. And is there anything missing for CEUs, Trish? Or was it covered? I just want to make sure to miss that. But thank you, everyone. Just put in the chat if you want CEUs, and I appreciate everyone for being here. Happy holidays. And Trish put in the chat right there, the chronicdiseasenm.org/contact/. Then that's how you can fill it out to become a member. And if you took notes from one of your breakout groups, please drop send them to me, email them to me. I'll put my email in the chat just so we can compile them for everyone. So let me do that real quickly.
I just want to add, Laurel, we are going to be sending a short survey following this program, so look out for it in your email, and if you can fill that out, we value your opinion.
And thank you so much. And yeah, we love the opinions and what we can do in the future to provide presentations. These quarterly meetings have been around for like 25 years now, because this council started 25 years ago, if you can believe it, before we were a nonprofit. And they were just, when I first started, like 7 people, but they were determined to talk about chronic disease prevention together and break down those silos. So sometimes they're huge, sometimes they're small, but they're always looking at education and chronic disease prevention and new ideas in our state. And we really appreciate you for this innovation. So thank you and happy holidays. Stay well, and we appreciate you. And have a great day, everyone. Bye. Thank you, Kenneth.
Kenneth. Thank you, Cheryl.
I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
You make me relaxed. You're
Thank
a yoga
you.
practice all on your own.
Right
Thank you,
on.
Kenneth.
Right on. Thank you. It's my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
You too, Laurel. We still got to get together for lunch.
We do.
We do. It's been so busy.
Yeah, let's do that soon. I'll remember that.
All right. Right on.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you,
Take care.
Emma. Have a good holiday, Maria. Bye, Patricia. It's nice to have you in my group, Tyson and Daniela.
Thank you, Laurel. You as well. Take care.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you, John and Trish.
Yes,
And
thank you both so
Donna.
much. Thank you all so much. And
It was
thanks
great.
for being patient with me to get my questions and stuff in.
That's okay.
Right on.
I was a little disappointed. I was like, uh-oh.
All right.
I opened up your email like Egypt, but then I realized because I get so many emails
Right. Yeah. And I will we'll be together on the 20th anyway, right?
for the board
For the
lunch.
lunch.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if all the board members can, I'm still trying to track everyone down, but we'll see who shows up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Thanks for working around all of us busy people.
Sure. Have fun. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you. We will. All righty.
Yeah, you
Yes.
leave
Good
soon.
safe
Thank you.
travels, Kenneth.
Safe travels, Kenneth.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
y'all.
John. I'm glad you got your
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm glad you did too.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.